You're listening to the Desert Moon Hockey Podcast with Matt and Rich.
All right, so on this humble little podcast, we've had a couple really good guests. The number one guest we've had so far is Audie James. Always going to shout out him on the show. But today, we actually have someone that's notable. We have the man, the myth, the face of the Fed Zeno himself. Trav, how's it going, buddy?
Doing well, man. Happy New Year to everybody. It's January 1st. We're recording. I don't know when this podcast is going up, and Happy New Year's to everybody. And yeah, it's, I haven't heard somebody say the Fed Zeno to me in a couple of weeks. It's kind of nice. Outside of my girlfriend, she goes into like a full-on, like full-fledged hockey voice. Like she'll come home from work, be like, "What's up, bud? How's the Fed Zeno today? You just hung cheese or what? You're gonna chip a man deep there? You're just a beauty, eh?" And I look at her like, "Stop that! You've never skated in your life."
So I know Richard was curious before you jumped on. So why do they call it the Fed Zeno? I know it used to just be, I think, the Federal Hockey League, and then they just call it the Fed for short.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. To be honest, I don't really have an answer for you. So I know it was the Federal Hockey League, those like the OG Wild West days, and then they wanted to rebrand as a more professional league, which I mean it's up in the air if it helped or hurt the league, but now they're the Federal Prospects Hockey League. We still call it the Fed, regardless. And I heard Elias Thompson, Big Sexy, he called it the Fed Zeno because he was at the casino one night. He lost all of his money, and he says, "The Fed Zeno, boys. She'll take everything from you." And then I heard that, and it kind of stuck with me. And I'd never heard anybody call it the Fed Zeno before. And then, fast forward to now, and now it's like every comment I see about the Fed online is the Fed Zeno, the Fed Zeno, the Fed Zeno. So I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think it's kind of catchy. I mean, outside of my girlfriend turning into a full on AAA hockey player when she talks to me sometimes, and sometimes I'll engage back into it. Yeah, you're gonna pack a lipper there, bud. Little 230 action. Yeah, pass Tinsky. She doesn't like it when I engage, but yeah, it's funny.
I don't know why. I feel like we're on an episode of Letterkenny right now. So
Yeah.
So we're an Arizona sports-based podcast, heavily Arizona Coyotes. I don't know if you can tell. So our
I guys are Islanders fans.
on your podcast or on your vlog, I forget which, you mentioned going back home to visit your family. Were you raised in Winnipeg, or they just live in Winnipeg now?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Winnipeg, whole life. Traveled around for hockey a bit. Mom still lives here. Dad lives outside of Winnipeg. I'm like we just mentioned before we started recording, I'm moving to Vancouver in 2 weeks with my girlfriend, and that's going to be my full-time setup probably for the next 7 to 8 months as I recover from this surgery on Wednesday coming up.
So then would you technically be a Jets fan?
Yeah. Actually, I would say a little bit of a Jets fan. I find whenever I leave Winnipeg, I become more of a Jets fan. Like when I'm in Sweden, I'm telling people, "Oh, the Jets are playing tonight. Jets are on tonight. Oh, you see Hellebuck? Bucky was great last night." But then when I come back to Winnipeg, it's like, okay, the Jets are playing. Yeah, Bucky was good. All right. But 2 weeks ago, my girl and I were having dinner, and we saw. I can't remember if it was the radio. It was a radio station that mentioned, Canucks Jets are playing at Rogers Arena, Rogers Place, whatever it is in Vancouver, and she's like, "Oh, you want to go watch the Jets?" I was like, first off, we don't have that kind of money. Two, I kind of do, but then we couldn't get tickets because they're too expensive. So yeah.
Definitely wait for the Coyotes to come into town. Those might be cheaper tickets to get.
They'll pay me to go to the game.
So growing up there, was there still a lot of hostility towards Arizona, or do they just not talk about Arizona except for online?
Oh, absolutely. I think lots of people have some hostility here towards Arizona because you took the team, and we have the new team back, and things are doing well. I think that if the Coyotes just left and went to like Houston or Atlanta or just went somewhere else, I think everybody here would forget about it because it's like, okay, they're out of Arizona, it's gone. It's what I mean. It's like, think about like you date a girl for a while, you split it. You still both live on the same street. You see her at the Walmart. You see her at the check and go, and you go to cash your checks on Friday. But you can never really get rid of her. And when she finally leaves, it's like, okay, it's better. It's
very good.
Comparable.
I feel like it makes it a little bit
small town dating, though.
I think it makes it a little bit easier when you guys can just steal previous players from us and put them up in your Raptors, though.
That is true.
Yeah,
very true.
I'm gonna go there for a second. How do you feel about that?
With Coyotes
how
Teppo
you guys are taking some old mold names back and put them back up in the Raptors. You feel like that's like who cares or
So I haven't actually told the story on my podcast before, but so I for a little period of time I was doing ice conversions at MTS Center, the Bell MTS Place, now the Canada Life Center, whatever they're calling it. They changed the name so many times the last couple of years, but it's the home of the Jets. And I had the job for about 2 years, and it was before, after Jet games, before and after concerts. Basically, you rip apart the whole place and you convert it into whatever else. So like putting the boards in, taking the boards out, setting it up for like a dinner. Some people would, big ballers would rent out the whole arena and just have like dinners, and they have like tables, like roast beef carving stations, everything like on the actual ice. They'd obviously put a cover over the ice. They do stuff like that, and I'd be in charge of like converting it. Concerts like Thomas Rhett, Godsmack, Sully Erna. That was a cool concert. But every time we do it, you'd be working on the ice level. We'd put the covers over top so nobody's slipping and falling. And you look up and there's all the banners. And I always found it was so cool because looking from like the ice level up at the banners, the lighting just hit it perfectly. And it just looked so majestic. It was so cool. You see Anders Hedberg, I think, Solani, Howardchuk, like some of the legends and the greats just hanging up there on the rafters. I thought it was the one of the coolest things about working there, I thought.
I think that's probably the one thing Coyotes fans would be jealous about, is that we don't have as many legendary names up in the rafters. We got one.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have some more in the next 20 years. But it's actually really cool that you mentioned you worked ops, because I worked ops at the Coyotes old arena, Gila River, at the Cardinal Stadium, and now I'm working maintenance at Bullet Arena. So it's always cool to talk to people that have some experience working in the buildings, because as soon as you're like, oh yeah, changing over, I'm like, I know, I've had to put the covers on the ice too. It's kind of a pain, but that's really
a unique
cool.
process, huh?
Yeah, it's weird, and then like it makes sense, but it doesn't at the exact same time. It was the weirdest thing when I had to first do it, because my dad did the exact same thing for I think 10 years before he finally quit and moved on. So it was weird when I started doing it for a little bit after him.
I always found doing the ice conversions, like putting the glass in, was always really easy. You get the board set up, everything's dialed in, you put the spacer pieces in, it's cool. Going around the corners, a little bit of a pain in the ass, like around like the benches. But the last piece of glass, the worst, to try to fit it in, and you have to have like 8 guys jimmy it in because it weighs so much. And so whenever you see glass break at NHL games and you see it on TV, you see the team, swapping it out, I always feel bad for them, because I know like that is like the worst piece to put in, the final piece.
I know this just reminds me of something my dad told me once. So it was back during the Gretzky era when he was coaching the Coyotes. They broke a piece of glass, so that was before they switched over to plexi. So it's just these big hunks of just junk. And my dad and everyone's going out there to go replace it. They just had the players just keep shooting at the glass until they broke it completely off. And then there you go, just 2 problems or 3 problems in one. So I'm hopefully you never had to deal with that. But that's like the weirdest story you have when it comes to like, oh, this turned into a pain in the ass trying to fix this, or a tenant making something a little worse. Obviously, you can censor as much as you want, so you're not breaking any can't talk about it.
Yeah, I think the worst one that stands on my mind was last year in Sweden, our last game of the season. We're playing in the third period. I want to say we got about 8 minutes left in the third. And one of the guys went to lay a hit right behind my net, and glass just everywhere, exploded. And not a big deal. Obviously we have ice crew that are capable. We're on the road. Everybody's ice crew is good. Not as good as our ice crew in Varberg was, but everybody's good. And I want to say it took them about 50 to 55 minutes. And I'm just sitting there. You play all game, you get tighter as the game goes on, and I'm on the bench, and I just did 50 minutes of stretching and yoga on the bench, and it was the longest 50 minutes ever, and they couldn't get the glass, and they ended up just cutting a piece of wood and putting the wood behind there. I don't think it's actually in the video, I believe, but yeah, that's one that stands on my mind as a little bit of a pain in the ass.
So it looked like the hockey rink was looted a little bit. All right, man, I'll take
a little
it.
bit. Yeah, somebody stole the glass. It's up at Kijiji, or the Swedish buy and sell.
All right, so for people that might be unfamiliar, that might be 3 people. You're probably, most of your audience will be watching this as opposed to our audience. Can you just kind of take everyone through your journey so far to get from where you were to get into the Fed right now?
Yeah. I mean, that could be a long one. I think that one of the moments that really kind of changed it was, so I played 1 year college hockey at VIU, Vancouver Island University, in the BCI. In beautiful Nanaimo, BC, one of the nicest places in Canada. And things really didn't go very well. Kind of a nightmare. We had This is a little inside story. Can't put it on my podcast because sometimes people get too offended. But our head coach, his name was Stevie P, and we called him the tranny man because he'd spend more time fixing transmissions than actually like coaching. And like he was our full-time coach. Like there would be a lot of times where he wouldn't show up. And we have one of the guys, he had like a car issue, whatever. He brings it in to Steve, and Steve's like, you know what? I'll get it done up for you in a day. Get it fixed up for you. It'll be $200. Cool. 3 weeks goes by, nothing.
Oh no.
And then he goes, "Oh yeah, your car is finally ready." 3 weeks later, we're like, "God damn it, Steve! Like, can we not get this guy his car back? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a hilly place, like a lot of like vertical incline. You don't want to be walking up and down the Nanaimo a lot." So he gets the car back, and it's like a $2,000 bill. And we're like, "What is this guy doing? This is his own player. He's rinsing for $2,000." Anyway, that basically, if that doesn't sum up my experience with VIU, I don't know what does. It wasn't my car, by the way. I didn't own a car at the time, but. Things didn't go very well. I wanted to find somewhere else to play. Goalie coach I was working with at the time said, "You should go down to an SPHL free agent camp." And I said, "Isn't that a money grab?" He's like, "It is a money grab, but it's an opportunity to network, to meet other people, and you never know what might come of it." And I said, "You know what? Fine. Great idea. I'll spend I think 1,000, maybe 1,500 all in to do this. I mean, between flights, hotel, the actual like camp fee, which is $300 US, which is like, I know it's a moneymaker for the team, but it's kind of a money grab." But anyway, go down there, and one of the guys is sitting beside me in the locker room. His name is Jay Krupp. Now I believe captain for the Columbus River Dragons. His dad owns the team as well. But anyway, so he's sitting beside me in the room for the whole Birmingham Bulls free agent camp, and he's just giving me like really off vibes, like very like almost like narc vibes. Like, why are you asking these questions? Like, these are very like suspicious questions you're asking me. And so at the end of camp, obviously I didn't get invited to main camp in the SP because I just finished sitting in the stands for a full season of college hockey. They're not going to invite me back for main camp. So Kruppy says to me, "I like what I see. Would you like to come play for us in the Fed and with the Columbus River Dragons?" And I said, "Sure, we'll do that. We'll sign a deal. I'd like to see how things pan out with my college situation first, but yeah, sure, we'll sign the deal." Things fall through with the University of Manitoba team, Bisons for U Sport up here in Canada. So I said, "Hey, come on down. What's the setup?" And he's like, "You're going to be our guy. You're going to be the number 2 guy. We're going to be with you all season. Just come in, get comfortable. It's okay to make mistakes. We're here to work with you here." Well, I get a call about an hour and a half before I drive into Columbus. Now, I drove from Winnipeg to Columbus. It was about 16 hours from Winnipeg to the Illinois border. And then from there to Columbus was another 14. So I'm going to stay with the time change about a 28, 29-hour drive. And I just do it the whole way straight because I'm a lunatic. I'm trying to save money. I really don't have any money at this point in time. And so Kruppy calls me about an hour outside of Columbus. He's like, "Hey, we just had a guy drop down from the SP, but don't worry, he's only going to be here for a week or two. He's going to go right back up, and you're our guy." Well, the 2 biggest lies in pro hockey is there's 3, but I can't tell you the third one on the podcast. The 2 biggest lies are checks in the mail, and it's only for 2 weeks. Obviously, those are massive lies. The check's not in the mail. You're not getting paid. So I go down. I don't have a really great training camp, to be honest with you. I get sent home after a week and a half. And I said to Kruppy and the management, I was like, "Dude, like, am I allowed to swear on the podcast?" I was like, "What the fuck? Like, you said no matter what, I'm going to be here. I understand maybe I didn't have a great training camp, but don't tell me I'm going to be here no matter what if you don't mean it. Like, don't bullshit me." So he ends up, I remember he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, here's $100 for gas money." And I appreciate the $100 for gas money, but I think I spent like 500 on gas the whole way there. I'm like, "Thank you, but this doesn't really fix the problem." Anyway, so I go back home, nowhere to play, kind of, a little bit of scrambling. I remember I ended up doing like a 2-day drive from Winnipeg to Nanaimo to go ask for my university coach at VIU, Stevie P, the tranny man. I went to go ask for him for forgiveness to bring me back on the team, and drove the 2 days. Dude was having nothing to do with it. So anyway, ended up basically sitting out the whole year, making the vlog. The vlog ended up really taking off at this point in time, which is great. And I ended up getting in touch with an agent who was working with a guy who was friends with my roommate in Columbus for that training camp. So I'm getting hooked up with that agent. He gets me a deal in Sweden, April of 2020. And apologies if this story goes a little bit long. It's a little bit of a lengthy one. But yeah, so of 2020. And he says, "We should just wait on the deal, see what comes in." And me being me, I says, "You know what? I don't think this COVID thing's going anywhere. If we're being honest, I think we should just sign the deal, take it, and worst case, we shuffle the deck come August. Because right now, I don't think anything is going to be open for a while. Why don't we just take it?" And we ended up signing it. And you look back, actually, that was a pretty smart idea. So got the deal, went to Flemingsburg in Sweden. The agent was a bozo. He didn't really get anything set up. It was just a booby trap. Ended up meeting my current agent, Adrian Soon. Calls me. He's watching the vlog. He's like, "Hey man, I think you're getting scammed, and let me help you out of the situation." Ends up getting me a new team, which is my team last year in Varberg. Was there for, I don't know, a very short period of time. They shut us down for COVID as well. Came back, went the season after last year in Varberg, full season. Things went really well. And then this summer, they put a new import rule in Sweden where, well, they said they wanted to like clean up Swedish hockey, which is not cleaning up Swedish hockey. They want to get rid of the imports. So they put in a rule where to be an import, the team has to pay and apply for your visa, which is, I want to say like $250, maybe $300 to do. Travel insurance is another like $1,200 to $1,500 depending on where you live in Canada. I got to pay for your transfer fee, another $2,000. You got some other fees involved in there as well. So you're looking top to bottom around $4,000 to $5,000 up front for every import you pay or that you want to have on the team, as opposed to a European, which is free. Mm-hmm. So it basically killed off every single import in Sweden. I think right now in Sweden Division 2, they got 100 goalies, whatever. They got 2 import goalies in all of Sweden for Division 2, and Division 3 isn't that much better. So I said to my agent, I was like, well, being realistic, I know how cheap Swedish teams are, and I know what the budgets look like. For me to expect a team to spend $5,000, and this is an investment they have to make in May because the visas have to get approved for you to be able to play. So guys are applying end of May. They can't play October 1st because the visas aren't approved because they take a while to get done. So for a team to invest that much money so early on is just nutty for me to believe that's even going to happen. So Adrian calls me. I think this is end of June, middle of June, whatever it was. It was a Sunday night. And he says, go and apply for all the Fed teams, free agent, invite things online. Just submit your information for me so they have it. It's on file, and then I'll make some calls on that. So I applied for every team's free agent player listings, or whatever, on a Sunday night. Monday morning at 9 a.m., GM from Motor City calls me. Hey, Nick Field from the Rockers. Want to talk? And I was like, what's going on, man? He's like, well, have you signed with anybody? I said, nope. He says, anybody called you? I said, nope. Really? I said, nope. Nobody's called. Not one caller. You're the first caller through. And so he ended up wanting me to sign. We ended up going back and forth for probably about 2-3 days because I was like, I know how the Fed works. The Fed is the wild, wild west. Yes, there's contracts. Yes, there's all these other things in place. But let's be honest, you make the rules and you can change them at any point in time. So I'd like to get my ducks in order, my T's crossed, my I's dotted. We'll talk to my agent and we'll go from there. So 2-3 days later, I ended up finally coming to an agreement that, hey, sign in the Fed, give me your commitment to Motor City, and you can go anywhere you want in Europe. I don't care. You can go to the SP, you can go to Europe. Just sign here. I don't want you going anywhere else in the Fed. And I said, you know what? Nobody else is calling. I'm a firm believer you go where you're wanted. And currently at this moment in time, I'm very wanted by the Motor City team. So I signed. And that basically brought us to this season in the Fed Zeno playing for the Motor City Rockers. I don't know how long that took to explain, but that's the short version, I guess.
No,
and then now you're sitting there as an absolute machine trying to play through, as you were describing, just searing pain. I know hockey players are built different, and I'm someone that doesn't believe people should play hurt, but I also understand why, because you wanted to make sure you're getting some games, getting some time in. But how did you push through what you were pushing to at least get as much time as you did?
Yeah, so there's a couple moving parts here to this. So first off, obviously we want to push through and we want to play, but also the business side of things of, okay, coming from Europe to the Fed, not a lot of guys do that. So that there on itself is an outlier. I mean, I don't know the exact number. I'm going to guess maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 guys came from, Sweden, whatever, Division 2, Division 3, over there to the Fed this year. And I was one of them. So very rare, and no goalies. I was the only goalie that did that. So to get an opportunity like that, very rare. So I've known for years that I've had this issue in my hip, right? And in the last 2 years, it's gotten completely out of control. To the point of like I mentioned, previously in the podcast and the vlog, where the only time I'm able to skate and play is when I'm on steroids, and I got steroids in my knee because the hip issues have gotten so bad it trickles to the knee because I can't do certain things in my hip because it's so restricted with the labrum being torn, which is what they believe. They can't confirm until they get in there Wednesday, but they believe it's torn. It might be in 3 pieces. The femoral growth, the big bone growth on my femur, the cartilage issues, there's so many issues that have just exacerbated so badly to make the knee issues unbearable that I can only play with steroids. And so I know we talked before the show. Do you want to talk politics? Well, this is a little bit political. So in Canada, we have free healthcare, which is great. It's not really free though, because you pay for it one way or another. So I've been trying loosely for about 4 to 5 years to get in to see like a surgeon specialist, just to talk to the guy to kind of see what we can do. And then since the issues got really gnarly the last 2 years, I was like calling and harassing, emails, phone calls,
Yeah.
voicemails left and right. Like I would literally not get off the line because I wanted to get this done, because it was just such a pain in the ass. And you hear people in the news talking about, oh, this guy had to wait 5 years to get back surgery, 6 years. Like that's the kind of boat that like everybody is in. Because during COVID, things went nutty, as you can look online to find out, and they canceled every single surgery. So I can't get in to see the hip surgeon specialist because they're dealing with, keep my opinions to myself on that. But so I'm trying so goddamn hard to get this consultation, and then finally I get an opening in June, like end of June, to meet with this guy. First time ever. First time. I say I will be there. I don't care what's going on. I will be there at this time. And I go there. We do the MRIs, we get the X-rays, all this kind of stuff. And he's like, "Listen, this isn't the worst I've ever seen, but it's pretty bad. And considering what we know, you can't finish the season, so you need to get the surgery." And I said, "Well, I hate to break it to you, I can't not play. I just got signed. I need to get off to some kind of a start. I don't want to take more steroids, but I think that the short-term sacrifice will be a long-term gain, in the sense of I knew in my head if I could get off to a start, I could make it till Christmas time. The vlog will take off. My name will get out there. People in the league will start knowing, kind of hearing about me, which is great. If I could play some games and not suck, that'd be great too."
Mhm.
But a combination of both to kind of get my foot into the door. And now you fast forward here where I'm done for the season. I'm getting surgery in 2.5 days from now. My name has gotten out there. Teams are trying to trade for me. Motor City is declining every single offer because they don't want to trade me. I can't give specifics, but I've had 2 player coaches I've talked to in last week that are talking about we're going to get your rights this summer. And I said, cool. I can't do anything skating wise till June, but that sounds fantastic. So I do think it was for the better, whether it's in Motor City, if it's in with these other teams or whatever happens. But I think that basically sums it up. I didn't really answer your question about like how I made it through it though.
I'm just going to assume you are ridiculously determined, because that's what it sounds like. It is that if you're going to be in your mid-20s and you're still like clinging on to a dream to play hockey, that's determination. That's something I can respect regardless, because that's something to kind of admire, really.
All right, so I am going to stop our little talks right here real quick. I do need to e-beg for the internet, so if you're enjoying this podcast up to this point, please give us a like, a follow, a subscription on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And make sure if you're listening to us audibly, check out our YouTube. We have the video version. Once again, I don't know why people like watching 3 grown men just staring at their screens the entire time, but some people like that for some reason. So make
It's
sure
pretty
to
easy to figure out, Richie. They're dreaming about us. They're just like, yeah, that fat AZ sports guy just lather some chicken grease on you or something, bud.
Is that a bucket of KFC in the back there?
Yes, sir. Actually.
Oh no,
my wife just got my food.
Oh no.
He's working. He works all day long. He doesn't have time to go get food. So God bless the missus for getting. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast, leave a like. Go listen. Give us a review or something. I don't know where the podcast is out, but go do that, because these boys work hard and they got a great podcast. It's a little more professional than mine. So.
All right, so we can officially add liar to Trav's resume.
Yeah.
No, I know you're a liar. Thought you were full of shit before.
Yeah, here we go. All right, so determination. That's where we left off at. It's a nice, strong word. Anyway, you have a more interesting topic anyway. We're just going to chalk it up to determination, because you seem to have that iron will. What was this you're talking about? The missus? That sounded like it would be a fun story.
Yeah. Speaking of determination, that's actually another one. She tried to get rid of me many times, but I've also won a lot of radio contests, like, because I just don't get off the line. I don't take no for an answer, so that's a great example here. But before we started recording, or I guess after the ad break, Richie was saying, I think it was Richie, that don't make sure we don't leak our real names. And I said, well, you know what? I actually got a really good story about my girlfriend. Having her out in the public eye with the videos, because I remember the first time I filmed something with her, she's like, nobody's gonna watch this, right? I was like, no, not really. And so after I put in a couple videos, and the videos were getting like 30, 40, 50,000 views of videos, she said, she texted me one day and she's like, "Do you know a Logan Thompson?" And I said, "Yes, I actually do know who Logan Thompson is, and I have a little bit of a history with him. Why?" She's like, "Well, apparently he's got like a blue check mark and he's like goalie for the Vegas Knights or something." I said, "Yes, what about him?" She's like, "Well, he just hit me up and followed me." I was like, "No way. Come on." And is this a PG podcast or no?
Go for whatever you want. You're a special guest.
I will cut any swears out in post, so don't worry about it. So,
well, previous to this endeavor, Logan Thompson and I are Eskimo buddies. And I don't think he knows it, but we are. And so when he hit up my woman, I says, "Listen, honey, one of us makes 125 a week in the Fed. One just signed a 3-year, $6 million contract. You have a choice here. You're at a crossroads. I know I'm lacking in many categories, but listen, I will not give up. I'm persistent. And you make the choice that you will. And we're getting a new place this month, a new apartment. So I think she made the right choice. So I'm biased. So I'm very jaded as well."
There you go. So
that's a story I might tell on the podcast. I think it gets too many eyeballs. I got in big shit for telling a Jacob Markstrom story one time. That was gold. He actually he reached out to me on Instagram. I'll tell this one too.
Mhm.
So I'm a big Markstrom fan, right? I've sent him many messages over the years on Instagram. Never heard back one time, especially when I was in Sweden. I was like 15, 20 minutes away from like where he was in Gävle, just outside of Stockholm. I sent him a message, "Hey man, big fan. Maybe we'll we'll mix it up. Let's get a coffee or something. Practice my Swedish, some bullshit." Nothing ever. I heard a firsthand story about in Vancouver. There's a girl who I'm friends with, not my girlfriend, but a different girl. I'm friends with her, and she was a model. COVID kind of killed her modeling career, but she was dating Ben Hutton at the time for the Canucks. They were together, I want to say, for a year, might have been a year and a half, and then she was seeing Jake Virtanen for a bit. That's an interesting story. That's the one I can't tell you on the podcast, but you've seen him for a little bit. And then she told me a story about Markstrom, and Markstrom was married at the time, and was hitting her up for like late night booty calls, whatnot, and leaving her voicemails. And she says, "Marky, you're married," and he's like, "Well, nobody needs to know." And I thought that was just the most hilarious thing, because at first when I heard the story, I remember at the moment I heard the story, I thought it was bullshit. But then Ben Hutton posts her up on his Instagram. Okay, that checks out. The Jake Virtanen stuff comes out 2 summers ago, whatever it was. That checks out. She's always been a very honest, very nice person to me. And so I'm thinking, is the Markstrom story true? Come on, that can't be true. It has to be, though, because she's a very honest, nice girl. And so I put that story up on the podcast. And to bring it back, those 20 messages on Instagram to Jacob Markstrom at Markstrom25, never responded one time. I checked my Instagram messages one morning, Markstrom25, verified message. I'm like, yes, finally, finally, he knows who I am. And I opened the message, disregarded every fanboy message I sent before him, and just ripped my ass apart, telling me that I can't be posting stories like that. I got to take it down. The podcast was only up for maybe 8 hours, and it only had like 400 listens. So I don't know if he was listening. He told me somebody else told him. I have an idea who might have told him, but I don't know, man. You're only doing damage control because you're guilty. There's lots of stories out there about me that I don't really care about because I know they're not true. So I don't really give them the time of day. So
for legality's sakes, I will say this is all alleged, and none of this is put in any factual information. So this is all just alleged information that is out there.
I like doing no disrespect, fellas. I like doing podcasts that are a little bit smaller than mine because I can tell stories that I can't put on mine. I work them in every now and then, but sometimes I get a little bit of heat for them. I'm like, oh, maybe I don't want to post about that anymore.
Oh, I'll let you know.
We'll get the juice, and everyone's like, "Why the hell is everyone talking about this random Arizona podcast?"
There you
Except
go.
for when we beat the Leafs. This should have been just on the Leafs the entire time.
Yeah.
Little do I know. I think you guys got 12 listeners. You got like 12,000. I'm about to just get rinsed online and waxed by Markstrom again.
I'm about to get a DM like, "Who the hell are you? Why are you and Trav talking about this?"
I am your daddy. Come sit in my lap.
Anyway, so Richie, you got any questions? I've kind of led the conversation so far.
I'll be real with you. I'm suffering from whatever the flu is that's going around right now, so my throat is like dying. That's why I've
So
just been
he's
nodding
enjoying
and
just kind of hanging out
smiling.
in the
Yeah,
background. All right, I got it.
I'm just like one of the penguins from Madagascar. I'm not the main penguin. I'm just one of the back penguins. Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and
All right,
wave.
smile,
Kowalski,
smile
progress
away.
report.
Yeah,
What's
pretty
going on there,
much.
Skipper?
Yep.
All right, so is there anything that you might want to ask a couple of Arizona boys? If you want to give us some junk, go give us some junk. Or if there's anything you're curious about now that you actually have a couple of hopefully knowledgeable hockey fans around you.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you, and please don't take this the wrong way, fellas.
Mhm.
As I've gotten busier with hockey, I really don't pay attention to the NHL a lot, to be honest. Like in Sweden last year, I paid attention to the SHL a bit just because it was so local and it was a very endearing experience, like being there and getting to know guys. But like, as far as the NHL goes, like I have no idea who's in first. I have no idea, who's doing what. I keep tabs on the goalies every now and then. Like I was talking to Ben Gaudreau last night, Team Canada goalie. I'm following him a lot. I follow like
So-
Hellebuyck, my guy, but I don't really follow a lot of
So-
NHL hockey.
I've got a great one to kind of throw in there because I feel like you said you're born and raised Canadian, and I feel like a lot of Canadians misunderstand the market a lot. It's just kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately, when you see nothing but e-news essentially when it comes to hockey.
If I could for a second, I think I know
Yeah.
exactly where you're going, and I would like to make a very quick point.
Okay.
As somebody who has spent time playing in the southern U.S., both at the Birmingham Bulls free agent camp, Columbus, Georgia, for the very short period of time there, and other U.S. locations, don't believe everything you read in the news. I'll tell you this for a fact. People from the South get a reputation, sometimes very justifiably so, but what I will not ever deny is that the people in the South are probably more passionate about sports and hockey specifically. I don't play any other sports, so I'm just going to go off hockey here. They're more passionate about hockey than any demographic of people on the planet. Like these people that come from the South, they eat, sleep, and breathe this shit. They come to the game. Some of them have no idea what's going on, but they're open-minded. They want to learn, and they just love the game. They love it, and it's awesome. I love talking to these kind of people. I'll be honest, no disrespect. I would much rather talk to somebody from the South, Arizona, Carolina, Mississippi, all these kind of places where like they're open-minded, they want to talk the game, and they just like they're so horny for the game. I don't know if I should use that word, but they're just so frisky for the damn game. As opposed to talk to some guy in Toronto, they're like, did you know this guy had a plus minus? I don't give a shit. I really don't. Let's talk passion. It is contagious in the South. So turn off the CNN, turn off the CBC, all that bullshit. It's a great market down there. It would be nice if you get a couple more fans to the ASU, or to the Mullet Arena, excuse me. But the fans are passionate, the ones that are out there.
Hey, we're gonna have to try to find some way to get Trav to be one of those fans one day in the Mullet because it's a phenomenal experience watching hockey there. I prefer the ASU games. I'm just like I know it's like I'm rooting for ASU to win. I want the Coyotes to lose. I mean, if you don't follow the NHL, I can tell you the Coyotes are in first place right now. Maybe I might get away with it, but obviously, I'm trying to tank for Bedard. But the atmosphere for college is so different and weird, and it's like it's hype. Like whenever ASU scores, I'm always like I'll be sitting in my office. It's just kind of right off to where the ice is at, so you can hear it pretty plain as day. And I'll be hyped. Yeah, let's go. And the Coyotes score. I'm like, God damn it, we're tanking for Bedard.
Yeah.
It looks like a good experience over there. Like, it looks like a very like I've always found college hockey to be very passionate. Like the fans are passionate, the guys are passionate. The NHL, I don't know what the word is to look for, but it just doesn't do it for me anymore. It's just this over politicized, watered down corporate product that like I don't get behind anymore. Like I'll tell you this for a fact, I pay attention to more college hockey than I do NHL hockey of late.
I mean, if you get the opportunity, I would definitely heavily recommend watching any ASU if you can. I know their goaltender TJ Septenfelder is probably one of my favorite younger goaltenders right now. And they're having the Desert Moon Hockey Classic this weekend. So, like, if you have any time this weekend, if you're sitting around, I highly recommend trying to catch a stream of some of the games because it should be a pretty fun tournament.
He's been by far and above their best player on that team.
Him and Donor. You got to give Donor, maybe Master Simone, a couple other guys, their credit. But TJ's a brick wall.
Yeah.
All right. So I actually wanted to bring this up earlier, and thankfully I remembered. So, given where you're currently at with your career in the Fed, where do you see your playing career kind of peaking? Like what I'm talking about is like on my channel, I have 1,000 subscribers. I think, max the market if you account when it grows, and then outsiders, maybe I would max out at 10K subs. Where do you see like your playing career maxing out at? What's kind of your end goal?
Good question, to be honest with you. See, I'm very conflicted about that because I generally know my playing career limitations are just with my resume, the way the hockey world works. But the YouTube thing does throw a wrench into things because, like, if you told teams we got a goalie that played 44 minutes, threw up an 850 something, 860 something this year, and a goals against of 6, 1-0, would you want to sign him? They'd say no. But then when you factor in that it's me, now you got two teams trying to trade for me and trying to acquire my rights, and potentially maybe the expansion draft team takes me because they get first dibs with the way the system works in a league. So, I think that being a starter in the Fed is absolutely not out of the realm of possibility. I think it's very realistic to be quite frank. I think that if I got an opportunity to play as a starting goalie and play some games, I think I could be a top 3 goalie in the Fed, no problem. I mean, like, I have to be very careful what I say contractually because of the whole Motor City situation. But if you ask any team, would you like a 6'5" goaltender that is passionate about the game and is dedicated to his craft? Find me a team that says no. And if you can, I'll tell you that you're a liar because it doesn't exist. Every team wants a big goalie and a guy that's passionate and dedicated to the game and dedicated to his craft. It's just a matter of finding an opportunity, finding the right place. It may be a team that may not benefit my stat line, fantastically. I'm going to be honest with the way the Motor City's set up. My stat line would benefit a lot with the additions we made in the month of November, and I think that you see the stat line, even for Babs went up, significantly when we made some additions to the team. So I think we had a really good team in Motor City, but that wouldn't be probably the case if I got an opportunity somewhere else. And I think that if I was to prove that I was a top 3 goalie in the Fed and the SP are very, very, very similar. Like if you compared the top Fed teams to the middle of the pack SP teams, they'd probably beat them. They would definitely beat the bottom SP teams. Now the top Fed teams would probably lose to the top SP teams just because the Fed has a significantly smaller budget than the SPHL, and also resources. I mean, obviously, if you're going to pay a guy $250 a week versus $125, you're going to get a $250 a week guy more likely, right? There are outliers to every rule, but that's just the way that it works. So if I could prove myself in the Fed, I think that any smart team would realize the effect I have on the bottom line, which at the end of the day in pro hockey, they can say that they care about the product, they care about the winning. There's a reason teams fold every 3 years, and it's just a constant, in and out cycle. It's because it's hard to stay afloat. And I'd be lying if I said that, Motor City not playing me hurt their bottom line. I think that a lot of teams think that just having me on the team is good for the bottom line. I think that having me on the team and not playing me will actually be worse off than not having me on the team. I think playing me is where you make a big impact financially for the team. Like for our season opening games, I remember our first 2 home games. I just kept pumping those dates in the blog, just pumping them. October 13th, and I think October, I don't know, like 18th or 20th, whatever the next game was. And we got 1,000, 1,200 people out to those games. And then since then, now I'm not going to say that I'm the reason for the crowd dipping. I think that it's reflection on the market itself and a little bit of the on-ice product. But we're smudging the numbers. We're getting like 200-300 people a game. I know they write 700, 800, 900 on the board. It's not 700, 800, 900 from what I see. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, but from what I see, it's like 200, 300 people. And I can make a big splash in that kind of a market. Maybe in a team like, let's say, Watertown, where they sell out every game. Well, unless you add more seats, I can't really help you. You only have so many people that can come in the building. A team like Columbus River Dragons, they have, I think, like a 6,000 seat arena. That would make a big difference. You can fill more seats, like stuff like that. So to answer your question, playing wise, I can play in the Fed. I know I can play in the Fed. I know that I could have played games this year and been a 1A, 1B with any team that was willing to give me an opportunity. I think that when I get my hip fixed in a couple of days and I come back next season, I think it's going to be, I don't even think you're going to recognize me come September. You're going to be like, who is that goalie right now in September of 23 is not the same guy that was, bumming around in November of 22. Not the same guy. So I think being a starter is very, very realistic. I think the SP could happen if, some chips fall into place in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe. Europe will always be there. I love Europe. I mean, you don't have to look too far into my videos to know that I love playing in Europe and I miss it a lot. But I think that there's a lot of possibility playing wise in North America for me.
Do you think there's any possibility of, depending on how well you play, how much improvement to your game, of ever going up to like an ECHL, or is this not even on your radar at this current moment?
Honestly, the SP is not even on my radar. Like as far as like what I'm focused on, my focus is just get my hip fixed because I know that opens up a universe of possibilities, and then becoming that Fed starting goalie that I believe I can be. Now, my agent does talk to me every now and then about, hey, SP call-ups are a thing. Hey, yes, they are a thing. Possible, yes. Realistic, not really at this moment in time. I mean, it'd be an ECHL team where they can't find a guy. They've, management's maybe been watching my videos, like, let's just take Trav. Doesn't hurt us to have him out here for the night. Maybe one of those. Would I stick full time? Probably not. I don't think I'd ever stick full time at the East Coast level, regardless. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. Weirder things have definitely happened in pro hockey before.
All right. Richie, you have anything else?
I don't really have any questions. I was just gonna reiterate a little bit about like how important marketing is, and you're talking about the bottom line, and I could absolutely see that. Even if you get a couple hundred people from your vlog going out to the game, maybe even, I don't know if there's sales or anything like that, but if you have like jersey sales and shirts and stuff like that, like all that stuff helps contribute. So I absolutely could see, not only from a player standpoint, but from a marketability standpoint, like how valuable you are to these teams. Makes total sense to me.
Just now for me, it's kind of tough to measure because I've been trying to get numbers about jersey sales and nobody wants to give me the straight answer. So I don't really know about jersey sales. I just go off what people message me like, hey, I bought a jersey. Here's a picture of me in my Motor City jersey in Australia. Great.
Yeah.
I don't know those numbers. What I do know is that when I announced my signing with Motor City gained like 1,000 Instagram followers in like a day. Instantly.
Yeah.
And currently, I could be wrong. I think they have the third biggest Instagram following of any team in the Fed. And we're talking about compared to teams that have been around for years.
Yeah.
And I'm very biased, obviously, but if the team doesn't post about me, there's really no engagement on anything.
Continue. Continue. I have a question. So continue with what you're saying.
I harped on, I hope that every SP goalie has a terrible year and gets hurt and Babs gets called up because that's what I wanted. I wanted the starting role because that's what, based on what management was telling me at the time, it was my job if he gets called up, which I was like, just please get called up. Please just go away. Don't ever come back. So he gets called up. The team announces he gets called up. Boom, 150 Instagram comments on the team's post. Everybody's ready for him to get called up and have me start a game. And now that, people kind of seen what happens, they're like, well, maybe they're not going to play Trav. Maybe, Trav's only here for other reasons outside of playing. I'm not going to get into it. Obviously, contractually, I'm not supposed to. Maybe I've already said a little bit too much, but it's almost a wasted opportunity because I feel like there's so much positive that could have been done in the Detroit, Metro Detroit, Fraser community with Motor City.
Yeah.
By just having me do a little bit more than sitting on the bench and, running stats in the crowd every other game. But we'll never know what was able to happen. And like I've been telling the people in the league that have been talking about acquiring my rights lately, Motor City's loss is somebody else's gain. If Motor City wants to play me and give me an opportunity next year, great. But at the end of the day, like someone's gonna win big when I start playing games in the Fed, and financially it's gonna really put them over the fence because the budgets are so tight, the margins are so small. Like this kind of shit will put somebody over the edge and make them a lot of money.
Yeah. Have you seen any other players within the league starting any like YouTube channels or anything like that after your success?
I mean, I guess success is a loose term. I mean, it depends on what you describe as success.
Well, I would say online you definitely are successful. I'm just taking a look at your channel. You're getting 50% viewership on your subscriptions. Like that's pretty successful to me. So.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Guys ask me all the time, like what my secret is, and I was like, honestly, I love hockey. I love film. I put it both together in a video package that's 8 minutes and 2 seconds long, usually. And I'm honest with people. I don't bullshit. I tell you the straight goods. I show you the good when it's good. I show you the bad when it's bad, and people seem to gravitate towards it. And people ask for like other like specifics, and I'm an open book. I tell them, because there's no real secrets that I have. It's just it just seems to, I guess, people like it, but nobody's really tried to replicate it. And to be honest, if you asked me to replicate it today and start from scratch, I don't know if I could. I
Yeah.
think that I just got into YouTube at a very good time. I've gotten very fortunate with some breaks with the algorithm and with different things that I posted popping off, and I probably wouldn't be able to do it if I tried again today, to be honest with you. So
Yeah. Have you have you tried any of the like short form content as well, like the TikToks, the stories, the
Talk about
reels
top tips
on
my podcast. Come
Instagram?
on now.
yeah, I tried YouTube Shorts on my vlog channel. Some are hits, some are misses. It depends. A lot of them seem to grow over time.
Yeah.
What I don't like about that is that if I have like every short hitting 6 million views, that's great, but it doesn't do anything for my vlogs and for my actual YouTube videos. And when I had a YouTube short do, I want to say like 1 million views not too long ago, and the AdSense on it was like 6 pennies. Like
Yeah.
how you can't make money off that. And like it's not, I
There,
want to be very clear, it's not about making money, but also I make 125 a week in the Fed. Like I'm trying to stay afloat here. So like financially, like I can't afford to make all these TikToks to get big views if they're
yeah.
not paying the bills, So
Yeah.
I've tried sticking with the long form on YouTube. The podcast has seen a lot of success with the shorts. The podcast has grown a lot with that. The TikTok has really helped growing the podcast, especially on the audio downloads. So yeah, I'd recommend that anybody, yourself included, if you're starting a podcast, if you're doing a podcast, get the TikTok clips out there, get the Instagram reel clips out there, and grow your Spotify audience. That is where the money is at. Not the actual money, but like getting people to come listen to your podcast. That's where it's at. I've found, at least.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be my advice on shorts and long form content.
That's better than my strategy of just shit posting on Twitter. I'm like, all right, I'll run the Twitter account and I'll just shit post all the time.
Twitter's dead, dog. Twitter is dead. And I'll tell you, I got like 2,000 followers on Twitter. I post like once every 6 months. It's like a semi-annual post, and I get way meaner messages on Twitter than I do anywhere else. I don't
Everyone's
even
just
post
mean on Twitter. They're just angry all the time.
Yeah.
This is a cesspool of just terrible people. I'm not responding to any of these anymore.
Richie, do you have something else, or am I cutting you off?
No, I think you're good. I am struggling to stay alive here, so.
All right.
It's
all
New Year's
right.
Day, man. He was in booze control last night. He's a little lubricated. He's still trying to catch up. He's just trying to get it off the glass and help and finish this podcast. Make it to the bench.
Yeah, pretty much.
I swear to God, I thought Trav was going, oh, yeah, make sure you go to the dirty areas too. Like every single time, we're just going to the exact same.
Dude, it's getting bad when even like my woman, we'll watch hockey or whatever. And she mentioned the other day, she's like, what's the point of doing hockey interviews? And I was like, I know. They'll tell you anything. Like, to anybody, if anybody is listening, it's, Fox Sports or any of these other like networks, like, I don't give a shit about, we're working hard out there. We're just trying to get them in deep. We just need a couple bounces, get pucks to the deep, or, to the net. We're trying to get a few more shots on. We're hoping the bounces go up. We're like, nobody's getting educated from that. Nobody's learning anything. You're wasting my time. Just put another Swiffer commercial on.
I feel like they could be really useful, but the problem is that the league has like censored them so much to not show any emotion, and they have to like essentially be drones. Because I think that you could get some really good rivalry. It's like the NHL has always been about, we want rivalries. We changed the playoff format to get more rivalries. But then when a guy elbows another guy, you can't say anything about it afterwards about, that was BS. I don't like him for this. Like, you want people to tune in. You got to show the emotion. You got to show like guys are mad at each other for their play. And, we see very small little spurts of this nowadays in the NHL, but it still reminds me back to the old clips of, I think it was Patrick Waugh who said, I couldn't hear him. I had both my Stanley Cup rings in my ears or something like that, right? Like that, the chirping that you get in interviews is like no more. And like, if you want to grow the game, you got to allow guys to be able to speak freely.
Also, look at the success of the WWE. Just straight up look at how it's so popular for men. And I'm like, I used to like it when I was like 14, 15. Like, if there's more clips going viral of guys shit talking, like obviously, like just tell them, hey, don't curse or whatever. But it's like, if you have them trash talking, you can have some fun rivalries. And as long as like Just send everyone a memo. All right, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say, the obvious stuff, don't personal attacks against like family or something stupid like that. But it's like, here's a couple things you can say, that you can't say, stick to this list, and then you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, dude, hockey is really dying because of it. I think too. Like, some people in the South love minor pro hockey because it's a little bit less censored. That's why I love Swedish hockey, because I didn't find there was so much damn censorship over there. Granted, I don't speak Swedish, so I wouldn't really know the ins and outs. But like you mentioned, like, you have the media to tell a story, right? And the story is to hype up the game, to hype up the rivalries, to get more people in the door.
Yeah.
You can't get people in the door by telling them we're trying to get pucks deep. You really can't. And when you say anything, and now the teams, you got to keep in mind this, the teams get paid by the league and by the media groups to do media, right? So TSN pays, CBC, everybody pays, their chunk of the pie. And the Bruins, the Jets, everybody gets, a nice chunk of the pie for doing media. Now they get that money, which is great, but they don't give anything in return. So you're not actually using the media to your full advantage, and you're not growing the game. You're not getting people involved in the actual rivalries within the sport. So as long as that's going on, I mean, like I said, it doesn't take a rocket science. My girlfriend, she never played hockey before in her life. She even knows this is bullshit and this is boring. I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch it. Nobody does. So it's a shame, but sadly, the game will die off because of it. If there's a hot take prediction there, I know a lot of people ain't gonna like that. Be like, what do you know? You don't know shit. You don't even play pro hockey. You only make
You don't know
125 a week.
shit. You're just a professional or semi-pro goaltender. I can't believe someone who's played hockey their entire life.
You only make 125 a week, you loser. Yes,
But
please tell me about your men's league.
It's literally become a meme. Like, whenever Coach Greg Powers, after because college, I don't know how it works outside of NCAA, but they play 2-game sets. So Friday, Saturday, the Friday game they lost against Boston College 5-2, and then they showed a little clip on Twitter. Is like, he's got to get the puck. They're willing to go to the dirty areas. The only thing I could think of was the Letterkenny boys doing that hockey player interviews or hockey player interviews 101, and that's the only thing that came to mind. I'm like, if you say we're going to the dirty areas, get pucks deep, pucks to the net, whatever, I'm just gonna laugh because that's the first thing that comes to mind, and it's such a weird thing.
Yeah, we're just trying to get to the dirty areas. One team's got to win, one team's got to lose. Ha! And what a great clip that was. Yeah, we're banging. Sex? No, bodies all night
bodies
long.
Banging all night. 4 lines rolling.
That's great. It's good stuff, Letterkenny.
I need to watch more of the show. One time at the Walmart down here, it was in Phoenix, Arizona, because I think I was hanging out with my brother-in-law that day, and I saw like season 1 on DVD. I'm like, oh, I'll come back in 2 days and get that. Fucking sold out, and I've never seen a physical Letterkenny box set in Arizona again, and I'm mad, and I don't like paying for streaming services. Like, Hulu's kind of garbage because you pay and you still got to watch ads, or then you got to pay more and maybe not get ads. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just not going to watch the content then. I'll just watch Shoresy clips or whatever on YouTube
or on Instagram or wherever you find them.
All right. I'm going to call the podcast. We're approaching an hour and I am ready to go lay back down. So
you got to go sober up.
Yeah,
he's gonna go. Unfortunately, Trav wants to go do whatever Trav's gonna do, and I'm gonna go pretend I'm useful and make some Coyotes content today.
I wish I could sober up. I was prepared to drink last night, but I was like, the way I am currently, I probably shouldn't drink because I will probably end up making my situation a lot worse. But it feels like I pretty much am a recovering alcoholic with how bad this is. So,
I mean, it's weird. I don't know if I'm just getting old. I'm not even 30 yet, but I feel like I'm like 40. I didn't even feel the need to drink last night. I just watched YouTube videos and played NHL 2023 for a little bit and went to bed.
You're an old man.
I am. I'm such an old man. I don't know why Trav agreed to this. He's like, oh, fuck, these guys are boring. He's sitting in the back of his head right now. Anyway, Trav, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, I know your audience is much bigger than ours anyway, but would you like to plug what you got?
Yes, well, here's the thing, man. Although I got 90,000 on YouTube, every one of those 90,000 people at one point had no idea who I was. So it's always good to rebrand and repump yourself. So if you're new, you have no idea who I am. You can listen to my weekly podcast, Sling the Biscuit, on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts. The video version is home on YouTube. It's a once a week, 45-minute podcast that I host with Winnipeg radio legend Dave Wheeler. It's a non-hockey or non-mainstream hockey podcast. You're going to love it. New episode actually just came out today. And my vlog at Trav4Oilers on YouTube. It's an 8-minute vlog, usually every Sunday. Now it's going to be a once every month, twice a month, with my rehab vlog, my hip surgery coming up in 2 days, 2.5 days from now. And yeah, check it out. I'd love to hear from you.
All right.
And like always, and what were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say I was gonna do my normal. So thanks for watching. Go away.
No, we gotta plug ourselves too before you tell them to screw off. Obviously,
leave us a review on this podcast.
Yeah.
The boys work hard. Leave us a Spotify, Apple review. Subscribe on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. Tell your aunt. Tell your grandma. Tell your dog. Tell everybody you know about this podcast. And hopefully we'll see you back for the next episode whenever it is. I won't be on here, but the boys will continue without me. They're going to get pucks deep. They're going to get to the dirty areas, banging bodies all night long, getting 4 lines rolling harder than Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit. And we will see you next time.